Hi, it's Pat Gillis here, and someone was asking us the other day, how do you know if it's too hot to ride? So I thought maybe we would talk about that. It's kind of a funny night to do it because we just had a storm come through here and it's nice and cool right now. But at any rate, one of the things I heard when I was growing up was that they used to say that if you added the temperature and the humidity together, that the number shouldn't exceed 150 or maximum of 180, depending on who was telling you this story. I mean, that works pretty good for the Fahrenheit people, but if you're working in Celsius, you'd kind of have to do some conversions to make sense of that. But I've always found that really, when you think about temperature with horses and things, it's just a bit of common sense. Like if you're out on a hot day, there's no cloud cover, there's no breeze, that temperature is going to feel different to the horse than a day where there's some cloud cover, a beautiful, nice, warm breeze, and the same temperature, right? The horse can probably do more, just like you can, right? In fact, that's one of the ways that I sort of decide. If it doesn't feel like a day that I would want to do a lot of strenuous exercise, it's probably not something I'm going to ask my horse to do either, just because he's probably going to be too hot doing it. The signs that a horse is overheated are fairly easy to see. Like you might find that his breathing gets really rapid, he's really hot to the touch, he's sweating profusely, or sometimes even worse, we'll talk about that after, won't sweat at all. And then you know the horse is really in trouble. We often talk about that dehydration test, where we pinch a little bit of the skin on the horse's neck and we make sure that it pops back just like that. You can also check the horse's gums. The horse's gums should always be a pink, sort of salmon pink color, and they should be moist to the touch. If they're really dry or sticky, the horse is starting to get into trouble. And you can check that by lifting their top lip like this and just seeing, and just putting your thumb against it and feeling what it should feel like. But if it's that gray color, you know that the horse is in trouble. So again, for us at my farm, I'm all about prevention if I can possibly manage it. So again, making sure the horse has access to water and making sure that he has somewhere to get out of the direct sunlight if he's going to be out for long periods of time. The other thing, what we did this year, I should say we, Meredith and Kira did this for me, is that they clipped a bunch of the horses. But what they did was they kind of did a body clip. I'll show you. So I don't know if you can see that on Rocky. Like you see, it's sort of he's gotten clipped so that we've left this half of him intact, and we've cut, along here, so it kept his belly, his undercarriage, so to speak, nice and cool. That's a great clip for a horse that's going to be outside all the time, because we don't have to put a sheet on Rocky because he's still protected because he's got his hair on the top. If we were to do a complete body clip, which there's nothing wrong with doing that, but then you pretty much have to provide them with some kind of protection, so we leave that top layer in place. That clipping was really important for us this year because we've got a couple of older guys who are starting to suffer a little bit from Cushing's disease, and they didn't shed out very well this summer. And so that's really given them some relief to have that partial clip like that to keep their undercarriage cool. So if you're worried that your horse is overheating, there's a number of things that you can do. The first thing is get him out of the sun. Get him somewhere in the shade or somewhere that's cooler. Offer him water and start bathing him down with preferably cool rather than cold, but we use whatever you have, water. And really start bathing him and trying to get his body, his core temperature down. Just like people, horses don't fare well if their core temperature stays elevated for a long period of time. When it gets to dangerously high levels, you've got to get the horse cooled down. And one of the quickest ways to do that is to bath them. I remember when I was younger, I was always told that when you bath a horse, that you always use a sweat scraper to take everything off the horse, to scrape all the water off the horse, because they say it almost acts like an envelope, or it kind of keeps the heat in the horse. I've heard studies now that say that maybe that's not true, but I'm old school enough that I still scrape the horses off all the time. But if you put your hand on that water as you take the water off, it's amazing how hot that water is. And that's even on a horse that's not overheating. Just a general horse that's been doing some work. It's remarkable always to me how warm that water is. So the bathing is definitely going to cool them off, and scraping that water off I think helps because you can replace the warm water with cooler water, and it should help the process along. So one of the places that's really great to bath the horse is under here. If you look underneath here, you'll see that the horse doesn't have a lot of hair in between his hind legs, so that's actually a great place to spray water to bring the horse's temperature down. There's another thing about the hind legs. I'm not sure you can see this, but do you see that it's called the saphenous vein, and it runs, we have one too apparently, and it runs all the way down here. Right? So again, when you're running that cold water down through here, you can really start to bring the horse's temperature down by hitting that big vein. I also, of course, would actually spray the water on the horse's neck and on his chest as well in order to bring that temperature down as quickly as possible. Okay, one of the reasons that we chose Rocky tonight to talk about this, about overheating and things, is that Rocky actually suffers from a condition called anhydrosis, which means he can't sweat. And this is a real problem, right? Because if a horse has worked hard in any kind of sort of activity in the hot weather, if he can't sweat, he can't get his core temperature down. And it does, like I say before, it doesn't take a long time for a horse to get into trouble if they can't bring their temperature down. So my friend Heather owns Rocky, and she spent quite a bit of time and money trying to figure out what we could do about this problem, this anhydrosis problem that he has. And after a lot of consulting with vets and things like that, we had actually heard from a number of different sources that there was a possible solution to this, but it seemed a little bit too odd, so we weren't really that game to try it. But after a while, when there was nothing else to do, Heather decided to give this a shot. And what we do now is we give Rocky a Guinness every day. Rocky loves his Guinness. He really does. Like, Rocky would drink this right now if I offered it to him. We just put it in Rocky's breakfast, and he gets it every morning in his grain, and sure enough, it makes him sweat. Now, I have read studies on this that they say that this is all anecdotal, and they can't seem to prove why beer, dark beer, particularly Guinness, works for horses, but it seems to do the trick. It certainly works for Rocky. He doesn't sweat as profusely as some of our other horses, but he at least will sweat, and he can at least do a little bit of work in the summertime. He does love his Guinness. Anyway, Rocky's going to be really disappointed soon if I don't open this beer for him, so I might have to go get him a carrot to placate him, because he only gets one beer a day, and he only gets it in the morning, despite how much he would love to have it right now. So if you're watching this anywhere besides at our blog, let me know if you've ever had a horse with an inability to sweat like that, and what you do. As I say, this is anecdotal, but it seems to work for Rocky. See you next week. Stay cool. Remember to thank your horse. We'll talk to you soon.